From the leading manufacturer of video game hits comes the #1 video game system, the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
When you get hold of the Nintendo Entertainment System, when you master Rob, the video robot, and meet the challenge of Gyromite, when you shoot the light-sensing zapper, when you play the system with the most arcade hits, you're playing with power. The Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
This is Speak and Spell. It teaches kids to spell.
This is Calico's Talking Teacher. It also teaches kids to spell.
This one's been around for a long time, and it speaks.
Try again.
Talking Teacher speaks too, and so clearly.
The first letter of yes.
Talking Teacher also helps your child learn math.
Math?
Yes, math and spelling, all at a surprisingly low price.
When you make a better learning toy, it speaks for itself. Talking Teacher.
Excellent.
For the holidays, we always go to Grandma's.
They never leave.
She's got this special way she prepares food. What's that special thing you do, Grandma?
I cook it.
The holidays.
This season, I'm eating out. Batter fried shrimp at Long John Silver's, plump golden brown, and I don't have to cook. Now that's a holiday treat.
Gee, Grandma, you're not serious about not cooking, are you?
Long John Silver's.
Watch me.
Sounds good to me.
This car is a piece of junk. It's a bluesman. No, I mean it's falling apart. The cigarette lighter doesn't even work. We need a new car.
Well, where are we going to get a new one?
No problem. We'll stop by Riverside Chevrolet's new location on Elwood Avenue.
This place has got everything. Look at this. They've got the versatile Chevy Astro van starting at just $93.89. Look here. A loaded 1987 Camaro Sport Coupe, just $99.95.
The new location's easy to get to. Just take the Elwood Avenue exit at I-44 across from the Arkansas River.
I get down in my stance and look the cornerback straight in the eyes. He gives me this 30 look. I laugh. I get him off. He gives me a forearm, but I give him a fake and leave him in the dust. The 30, the 20, QB lets it go. Beautiful spiral. The crowd's going nuts. The girls are screaming my name. Billy, Billy. I go up for it. It's dropping into my hands. And then I notice it's not a Nerf. Forget it. I quit.
There's only one Nerf.
What's it like to play the Nintendo Entertainment System? The Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power. Now, Hordak reveals the most gruesome trap ever. The Horde Slime Pit.
The what?
The Slime Pit.
Now, Spikeler, you're my slave, not the slime. Yes, my slime will overpower you. I've been slime. No one escapes the evil Horde Slime Pit. Yes.
The Evil Horde Slime Pit from the Masters of the Universe. You put it together. Action figures each sold separately from Mattel.
Sinkable, unthinkable.
The unsinkable taste of Cheerios. Cheerios. Now the line of sugar to way down low. Cheerios. Look how they float. No keeping them down. So this can't, that can't. No, you can't sing. The unsinkable taste of Cheerios. Now the line of sugar to way down low. Cheerios. The unsinkable taste of Cheerios.
Brought to you by Worlds of Wonder, the makers of Teddy Ruxpin, the world's first animated storytelling toy. Brought to you by the exciting world of Kenner. Happy holidays from the Kenner family to your family.
What's it like to play the Nintendo Entertainment System? Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
Hi, my name is Teddy Ruxpin. I want you to meet my friend.
Teddy Ruxpin's friends are found only in the world of Teddy Ruxpin's storybook cassettes. I said in the storybook cassettes.
Bargain Furniture Warehouse, 8177 East 44th Street. No one can meet the savings. No one can beat the selection. True Bargain Furniture Warehouse, 1 block east of Memorial on 44th. Open Saturday and Sunday only. Open today from 8 until 6. 1 block east of Memorial on 44th. Fabulous name brand home furnishings. $1 million selection. Sale prices on every item. You can save 20, 30, up to 60% today.
This holiday season, get the lemon lime soft drink with real juice. Get Slice.
We got the juice, a burst of cheer. We got the taste for this time of year. We got the juice, we got the twist. We got what's fighting 7 up in this.
10% real juice.
We got the juice, it's going fast. Slice. We're stocking up to make it last. So nice. We got the juice.
Happy holidays.
Slice, slice.
Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday, if there is such a thing. I hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to take a second to welcome our newest member of the Glarer mod team. That would be Team Brittany. Team Brittany, we are happy to have you. Okay, so now I know you didn't ask for it. It was very random. If you don't want the wrench, that's fine too. I know I just made the assumption, but I hope that you'll accept it, and I know that you'll do the chat. You'll do right by the chat. So thanks for joining us. Now. In just a minute or two, I'm going to bring on Steve Fisher, who is better known as SF Investigates. Before I bring him on, I'm going to read a portion of an article that came out in the New Yorker today. And right after I read this, I'm going to bring him on. This is something else. But let me just go ahead and get through this because my man is backstage and I don't want to keep him waiting. So last February, AWP, that would be Adventures with Purpose, was working on a case in Florida. Now, before I continue this New Yorker is basically a fluff piece for Adventures with Purpose, it looks like. So I'm sure there's going to be mixed feelings in the chat about that, but I'll just keep going. Last February, AWP was working on a case in Florida when Jared Lysick left abruptly without explanation. A couple of months later, he filmed himself sitting in a dim living room saying, "My heart is just like pounding out of my chest right now." He said, "I'm not here to give you a polished video today. I'm simply here to talk about me, my vulnerabilities, And in the next hour, Lysick discussed his depression, got choked up, and reminisced about past cases and gave away merchandise. It was unclear what had triggered the video. His viewers were unsettled, but their concerns were overshadowed a few months later, when AWP's inbox was inundated, with messages about a case that was unfolding in Truckee, California. Just before midnight on August 5th, a 16-year-old named Kylie Rodney had texted her mother to say that she would soon be heading home from a graduation party at a campground near Prosser Reservoir. Her cell phone pinged near the reservoir at about 12:30 a.m. when then it went dark. She hadn't been heard from since. Rodney was young, white, and pretty, and her absence led to fervid speculation online. Her friends, and particularly her ex-boyfriend, were pegged as suspects, with teenage partying and romantic drama magnified into motives for murder. There's something really stinking, rotten, horrible going on with this Kylie Rodney case. There is a cover-up, and I believe it's among the friends, a TikToker said, citing body language as evidence. Why does your face look like that when you're talking about your friend you're so close with? Another asked. According to one unfounded rumor, Rodney had been killed as part of a teenage fight club. Another held that she'd been sold to a sex trafficking ring. Previously, AWP had focused on cold cases. Becoming involved in a high-profile active investigation was an opportunity to expand its reach. Law enforcement had already searched Prosser Reservoir, but that didn't dissuade Lysick. If she's underwater, in my opinion, they just don't have the skills, he said. A team led by Doug Bishop set out for California. On their way to Truckee, a fan flagged them down in a Best Buy parking lot and told them that he might have a lead on the case. He worked for a roadside assistant company, he said, and had recently been dispatched to the Truckee area to help a young couple whose car wouldn't start. The interaction had left him uneasy. The woman had seemed distressed, and he'd wondered if he'd had a rough day or was very hungover. As soon as he took the car out of neutral and put it in park, it started just fine. After he left, he called his girlfriend and told her how strange the encounter had been. It was only later, after seeing Rodney's picture on a flyer, that he wondered whether he'd actually met her around the time she went missing. The AWP team pulled into Truckee 2 weeks after Rodney disappeared. Her impish grin smiled out from thousands of flyers posted on stop signs, store windows, and bulletin boards. The crew started to search at a lake, then went to reservoir near where the roadside assistant driver claimed he'd encountered the mysterious couple. Finding nothing, they turned to the attention of the Prosser Reservoir. As a cameraman filmed Bishop, he cruised the reservoir in an inflatable boat and read aloud a message from an unnamed local source who hinted that Rodney's disappearance might have a more sinister explanation. Something had happened, and all the kids' parents told them not to get involved, quote unquote. I feel the same way, Bishop said to the camera. Because, Doug's so real. 55 feet from shore in another boat, Nick Rinn peered at a rectangular shape on the sonar screen. It looked like a boat or possibly a car. Hey, Doug, Rinn's cameraman radioed Bishop. We may have something. It's hard to tell. That day, Rodney's father and grandfather were at Prosser Reservoir with Steve Fisher, a private investigator, also known as SF Investigates, who will be joining us in just a minute. They had heard rumors of AWP's arrival, but no one in the group had spoken to anyone in the family as they stood on a hill overlooking the water. Fisher's colleague called to tell them that AWP had just announced on Facebook that it had found Rodney's Honda CR-V in the reservoir with her body inside. As the news spread through Truckee, there was criticism that the group had rushed to post on Facebook before officials confirmed the identity of the remains, which is exactly what they did. Rodney's mother heard about what happened from a server at the restaurant where she was having lunch. She told her father, David Robertson, that she felt the group had made a spectacle of her daughter's death. AWP claims that it contacted a distant relative who lived in another state before making the Facebook post. We can't keep every family member in the loop, Lysick said. Rodney's ex-boyfriend accused the group of clout chasing, but most people greeted the team members with as heroes, lavishing them with hospitality. We couldn't pay for a meal, one of them told me. Law enforcement agencies had devoted nearly 20,000 hours to the search of Rodney, and AWP said that it had found her within an hour of putting a boat in the Prosser Reservoir. Lysick liked to say that AWP's job was to locate people underwater, not to determine how or why they'd end up there. But in interviews, Bishop and Lysick insisted that Rodney's death was suspect. It doesn't add up, Bishop told Fox News Digital. It reeks of foul play, quote unquote. The team retreated to a cabin on Lake Tahoe where the editors rushed to put together a video. Former AWP team members told me that they fought with Lysick and Bishop over the content. Lysick characterizes it as an open discussion. Lysick says it would have been better to just be like, here's the facts. We found the missing girl. Oh, no, it wasn't Lysick who said this. I apologize. I added that in there prematurely. I apologize. It was one of the team members who criticized and said that they argued with Lysick, who said it would be better. It would have been better to just be like, here's the facts. We found a missing girl. And I completely agree. Absolutely. Instead, the video, which was titled How We Found Kylie Rodney, Murder or Accident, seemed designed to stoke speculation. In it, Rin discovers Rodney's body in the car's rear cargo compartment, which he calls suspicious, quote unquote. The video also included a lengthy interview with the roadside assistance driver about his interaction with the bizarre couple. Some viewers seized on his description of the young man accompanying the distressed woman, thin with brown hair poking out from under a black giant's cap, which totally described Jagger in his pictures and in his interviews. That was not an accident, in my opinion. Moving on, the description resembles Rodney's ex-boyfriend. I was like, dang, man, this is going to throw some true crimers into a whole nother frenzy. A former team member said of the video. In an interview with a group of true crime YouTubers the following week, Lysick was coy, suggesting that more information might be released later. There's an entire other theory that it would blow your mind if I even told you, he said, then added that the man the roadside assistance driver had seen was a positive match. The YouTubers received the news as a bombshell. Oh, well, one said. Oh, my God, said another. Lysick's intimations circulated in the true crime community, where there is a tendency to assume that the official story of the tragic death obscures a more horrific reality. Jesus. Engagement-driven platforms thrive on drama and twists with those kinds of incentives. It's tempting to see every death as a murder, every murderer as a serial killer, and every investigation as a cover-up. But the Nevada County Sheriff's Office soon told reporters that it had ruled out Rodney's ex-boyfriend as a person of interest. At the time of the party, he appears to have been hours away in Napa Valley. Other search and rescue experts pointed out that it was not strange that Rodney was found in the back of the vehicle. The engine-heavy front end typically sinks first, and the person trapped inside will often clamber to the back to escape rising water. Fisher, SF Investigates, the private investigator, tracked down grainy video footage from a wildlife camera overlooking Prosser Reservoir. On August 6th, around the time Rodney's phone went dead, it showed a pair of headlights moving erratically toward the reservoir near where Rodney's car was eventually found, then vanishing. In October, the Nevada County Coroner's Office declared that Rodney's death had been an accidental drowning. Okay, so right now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Steve, also known as SF Investigates. Steve, how are we doing, buddy?
Nice to see you again.
You as well, man. It's great to have you again. Thanks for doing this.
Sure.
Okay, so first, I gotta say, until I read this article, because I miss a lot of stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
And as active as I was in this, in talking about this investigation, mostly I was focused on the misinformation, but I did not know that it was you that captured the fire footage.
Yeah, I found it. It was just it was after I had left, and around the time of her memorial, some huge forest fires broke out up in that area. and it was being covered on the local news. And I just started thinking about how they used to have those fire watchtowers, and you know, and I'm also, you know, I'm on LAPD search and rescue team, and we do fire watch sometimes too, and there are towers, and so I started searching online for the actual physical towers where they have like rangers, and I realized that they don't have them there anymore. They've converted those actually to Airbnbs, but what they did is University of Reno, University of San Diego, University of Oregon, and a couple others. It was actually, I think, somebody's thesis project, but years ago they started this alert wildfire system, which are these infrared cameras that they station, you know, on these, they station them usually on microwave towers, because that's how they power them. And then they are able to detect, you know, hotspots, but they also encourage the public to monitor the cameras. And if they see fires breaking out, to call in. So they have them all over. So
well, because you can access the cameras through your computer, right? Any citizen can actually do that, correct?
Yeah. So at the time, I was just only able to do that. Now, I didn't realize as a first responder, I can actually have app access to it where you can control and zoom and stuff like that. But at the time, I learned about the system, and then I pulled up the Tahoe area, and I was just going through the cameras, and I hit one called Alder Hill, and it looked just like Prosser. And
as an investigator might actually do.
yeah. So I grabbed some of the drone footage that I shot, some of the wide stuff, and just kind of looked at them like that is Prosser. And at the time I hadn't found the archives yet, but it has a function on it where you can go back and do a time lapse over 12 hours. So I wanted to see at night what if you could pick up like headlights and stuff. And I rolled it back 12 hours, and sure enough, you can see headlights clearly because of the infrared, you know, cameras. So, and then they have, you know, they store it all because it's the cameras are all artificial intelligence learning, so they don't delete any data. That's how the AI learns. So and that's all, you know, available. And went back, and luckily enough, because there wasn't any fires going on in the area, it was pointing out over the reservoir that night, you know, because they will, on their own, they will move, they'll pan if they detect hotspots or anything. And, you know, I mean, it was sad, you know, to see, obviously, because it
but I could see it being a relief to have that kind of break too, because it brings a lot of closure. It brought a lot of closure.
Like, I kind of wrestled with it for several days, you know, before I released it, because I couldn't really get law enforcement's attention on it. And so then that's when I just let it go on Twitter. I said, listen, what I did, you know, there was stuff going on like Zav's channel and stuff, crazy speculation.
Right.
And I said, listen, I'm doing this not to be like, look what I found. I'm doing this to like end this speculation about her being at whatever the other reservoir is or anything. There is cameras that captured that evening, and you know, put it out there, and you can see, you know, the majority of the people leaving, you know, and there was, you could tell there's people up on the higher campground, and there was people down on the water line, which we had heard, you know, before the car was found, you know, we'd heard that there were cars parked down on like the shoreline, and there was you know, they were going back and forth. And, you know, you kind of see the events unfold. And when you're there, if you've been there, you can see how it can happen. It's very dark. The water is like glass, you know, and
right. I mean, if there's no light to reflect off of it, how would you see it? I would imagine.
The thing is that, and you can even see it in the. I put some screenshots, you know, back when I found it. You can see her headlights illuminate the trees on the
Right.
A little finger line. So you could see how she could think that she's still dry, that there's not water in between, and then, so it's just it was a tragic mistake. But even then it created so much controversy because people wanted it to be something that it wasn't,
right.
And then all the accusations of me planting the footage and all this, this crap went on. And
I mean, wouldn't you have gotten, at least made it look better? You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I know. It's just, and the thing is, and listen, I think it was good to find, to have some answers, but at the same time, now the family has to go through this cycle of people speculating that they're involved in some, it's this big conspiracy, but nobody can ever explain what the conspiracy is for, like what the end
right.
goal,
what's the motive behind the conspiracy?
Everything's got to have a motive, and then
everything does.
It was just, the craziness, the Illuminati stuff, the lodge being a cult type of thing. The first day I met her grandfather, the first day I got in town, I talked to him for quite a while, and then I said, "Do you mind if I go up by the lodge and shoot some drone footage, because there's like these little ponds?" He's like, he gave me the code and everything. I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to go in." Like, he's just like that kind of people, like very trusting. And so I went there, and you see the lodge. This lodge, they built as like, it's just this really like homey family. They play music. It's like kind of off the grid a little bit. It's family oriented, and they made it out to be the exact opposite of what this place is. This is a place where you go and you just don't want to answer the telephone for a few days. You might hang out with your family and laugh and play music and that's what that's what it was. And unfortunately, that's not, from what I understand, what it is anymore, because of the reputation that it's been given. And people felt the need to go leave all these Yelp reviews and stuff that it's a satanic place, and when it's just like this family oriented thing, and Kylie was involved in a tragic accident, and somehow it
right. And I mean, in your involvement with Kylie's family, wouldn't you benefit in some way to jump on that bandwagon and spin that narrative that there was foul play? Wouldn't that drag time along and bring you more clout?
Sure. I mean, if the thing is if I wanted to do all kinds of press saying I think there's a murder here, I think that there was plenty of opportunity. If there was, that town was crawling with reporters, and I think everybody knows, and listen, I'm just I'm not saying it was just me saying it wasn't a murder, but I took a lot of heat because people were like, "You're covering things up."
I remember.
and yeah, so it would have been, but the thing is, that's not like, as an investigator, it's about, well, I'll tell you, I mean, it's like this in every case, but David, her grandfather, the first day I talked to him, he we had met because I was like 6 o'clock in the morning at the volunteer trailer, and I was looking at some of the maps, and
I was actually going to ask you how
yeah, well, I'll tell you how. So when I decided to go up there, I got there at like I drove through the night, and I got there at like 4:30 or so in the morning, and studied the area a little bit, and then they had a trailer set up at like a community center, which is on the road leading up to where you enter Prosser, and on the side of the volunteer trailer where everybody was supposed to go and sign in so they knew who was out there, you know, in case people got lost or anything. I was looking at the maps, and it showed like where they had searched, and you know, notes and stuff like that. And then, but it was really early. It was like 6, maybe even a little before 6 in the morning. And then, so I was standing there. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know people were in the trailer, and the door opened, and this little puppy Australian Shepherd came out, and then this man came out, and we started talking. I said, "Hey, I'm sorry. I didn't know, you know, you guys were sleeping in there, and I was just studying them out." He's like, no, you know, like anything you want to know. And we started talking, and I just explained to him. I said, you know, I'm a licensed private investigator, but you know, I work on search and rescue too, and I came up here just because I want to be another set of eyeballs, you know. And we talked for probably about an hour. And you know, he you know, when I found out it was her grandfather, and he you know, he talked about the frustration of not, you know, all these agencies being involved, but they had like no information, you know, they weren't getting it, and they weren't being told anything. And you know, like those of us, and like the people that are watching this are people that are in this like community, and so they've seen a lot of cases. You know, this is a family that has no idea what a missing person case looks like or what happened.
Right. They never do. The families never. They're not true crime people,
and they're thrown into it, and just like, I mean, you can see in the when they did the community press conferences and stuff, like just standing there, just like this blank look. They're just like, you can tell it's just so overwhelming. And he just said, and this is the part I was talking about. He's like, I just want the truth. He's like, that's all I ask of you is that what you tell me. I just want the truth.
And this is Robert, Kylie's grandfather, right?
This is David.
David
Robertson, her grandfather.
Okay.
You used his last name. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I confused the last name. Yes, David Robertson. Yes. Okay.
And then
Daniel is dad. Got it.
So he just said, Steve, I want answers. I just want the truth, and that's why I think all this wild, you know, speculation and outright. There's a difference between speculation and just outright lies to create a narrative that simply, I mean, didn't exist, and then to like double and triple down with they're not real, and it's a scam. It's Cassie or whatever the other, you know, and David
Callie,
David wasn't real. He was really, you know, like I you know, I couldn't even keep track of it, but you know, and that's all he wanted. That's all any family wants, is they just want the truth, you know. And it's not a lot to ask.
I agree. It just, I mean, to just empathize with the situation a little bit is all it takes. I also I want to move on to the article real quick. Now, were you surprised by the content in the article?
So I was interviewed for the article.
Okay.
And you know, listen, the New Yorker is a big, you know, thing. I worked with their fact checkers. I had no idea what the you know, the narrative would be. It certainly wasn't a takedown piece, but I don't think it was glaring. You know, the one thing
it most definitely was not a takedown piece.
Yeah, no.
That's why I'm asking you, because when we were direct messaging, you seem to have a different idea of what it was going to be.
I did think it was because
and I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No. I'm just trying to think out loud, because I've read it once, and I just heard you read it again, and I'm still like thinking about, you know.
Well, I only read the part that pertains to Kylie Rodney.
Yeah.
Everything else, I mean, that's in a whole nother monster right there. As far as I'm concerned.
So the one thing where I do think that it was important, and I think maybe they try to get across, maybe unless you really know the case well, it won't be understood by a lot of people. But the article talks about another case where the AWP had found a girl. I forget if it was Texas or something, and Jared, they had found parts of her remains, I think, outside of the vehicle, and Jared had also found like a necklace, and he gave it to the mom, and the mom talked about how that just meant everything in the world to her. And then, at the end of the article, it talks about how after the charges came out with Jared, how she just felt that Jared actually forever tainted her daughter's memory. That he was the last, like she says something about he like hugged me, and and I didn't know this about him, and she's like, she has this like shame about it. And that's exactly how I, when I was battling with people about the AWP thing, and people were like, oh, you're just pissed because you wanted them to say you were the one that informed the David and Daniel, which, like, why? That was like one of the hardest moments of my entire life, to tell somebody that their 16-year-old is. It was just
and there's nothing to indicate that, except
Yeah.
there is plenty to indicate that it was AWP who was clout chasing,
Yeah.
because they prematurely, before even identifying the remains in the car, that it was Kylie.
They didn't even call law enforcement.
Right, they just blasted it on Facebook, and then their excuse was when Kylie's mom had to find out about it through a server where she was having lunch. Their excuse for that was, or Jared's excuse for it was, that they can't keep every member of the family informed, and they told a distant relative. Why are you telling a distant relative? Why is the mom not the priority for you?
Well, let me tell you, because they've also talked about, we didn't have contact info. In that town, the easiest phone numbers to find in the entire world at that point were the Rodney families. Personal phone numbers, or the lodge's phone numbers. I mean, there was a volunteer trailer with them plastered all over. They, not only that, AWP had to pass the volunteer trailer when they got in town. So they should have checked in, first of all, just like everybody was supposed to. They would have had all those numbers instead of a random person that we still don't know who it is, and then they edited it.
Right. So they just rode in on their big white horse and were like, we're here, and they didn't check in or anything, and didn't without any regard for any type of procedure to indicate any sense of organization in the entire thing.
Yeah. And like that, the lady says in that piece, how like now she feels this like shame about AWP finding her. But I wonder that too, and this isn't a conversation I'm having with them, so I don't know. But I don't like. Do you want Jared? I like to be the one responsible for finding your 16-year-old when he's now we know up on child rape charges, and so there's just a lot of elements to it, and the way they pressed the whole crime, and it was simply for views. Listen, let's just be completely honest. The
I'm 100% with you.
Tow truck driver was a paid plant story. That is bullshit.
Totally.
There was never any truth to it. We were saying it from the beginning. It was bullshit. And people, but people wanted to grab onto that because it would extend the story. And that's not what this was. This was about finding Kylie and knowing what happened, getting the truth, and and I don't why a family has just gotten like blown apart in the midst of that. I don't understand, and it's not something I want to be a part of. Like that part of the community, I just want to like separate myself, because this is a family that is still hurting like so much. I mean, this is a 16-year-old girl. This is the light of their life, and
right.
And now, all like, how would you?
And
like,
so much about her to be proud of as parents.
yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what they're going through still to this day after a year.
Listen, I'm not going to get into any personal details, obviously, but I stay in touch with David regularly, and I can tell you it has affected him greatly. It's a huge loss. I mean, but then to also have to read these stories and then have your business like literally obliterated because now you got all these reviews saying you're this cult like center and just like shitty stuff. Like, I don't know how it comes out of people's mouths. Like,
right.
This is a family who lost a human being, like one of their family members. So, there's a big difference between the people that have some, like, I'll give you an example. Someone who I disagree with what happened in the case, but who I respect because the way I go about it is like Jules of all trades, whatever. Jules thinks different thing. It was a different set of circumstances, but Jules like will talk to me and she'll like she'll listen to my side and then ask questions and stuff. And I encourage her, like, keep investigating. Like, if there's something out there to investigate, do it. I'm not trying, but the stuff that's just clickbait and just defamatory is out of bounds, But I'm not saying like, listen, case closed, don't turn away. I mean, and by the way, the case is closed, just so I know there's speculation there that it's going to reopen. I've talked to CHP. It's closed. They're writing the report. There's another fatality report ahead of hers. FBI closed theirs about 4 months ago. The CHP is just in the writing phase. Investigation's done, everything. So, just for people that are wondering, but still, if people got things to investigate, as long as you're not infringing on the family's privacy and stuff like that. Like, if you got some theories, work that, as long as it's not invasive to the family, it's not defamatory, fine. But the facts truly are out there. And why would I cover up? If something had happened to her, why would I cover it up? Like, for what benefit?
Right. What's the motive for that?
For the $0 I've been paid.
And these are the people who call themselves true crime YouTubers, but like, I mean, True Crime 101, Chapter 1, Paragraph 1. What's the motive?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's right there.
Listen, foul play was on the table up until the car was found, and David and I talked about it. Daniel and I talked about it because the car. I personally watched the Nevada County or Placer County dive teams, go over the lake 2 or 3 days, and so I was like, the car can't be there. Now, we did see it on the drone the day before AWP came in. I put that footage out there open source, and somebody from Grizzly's channel actually found the car on a thing and submitted it to Nevada County. But the thing is that up until that point, we were like, okay, if the car's not there, then the car's got to be stashed in a garage or something somewhere. Like, somebody actually have her. So foul play was on the table, but then once we found the car was found, then it was like, okay, so let's back up and reevaluate it. And then, when we arrived, we got from the time that Chloe, who I work with, who's another private investigator, from the time she called and told me that they announced it, and then I told David and Daniel, and we went straight down to the site. And Daniel was there for, I don't know, maybe about 90 minutes or so, and then he went to CHP for the official notice.
I'm sorry. I got to cut you off just for a second because I have to address a comment because I don't like misunderstandings or misinformation in the chat. And this person's actually making a good point, except she's misunderstanding what we're saying. She's saying not necessarily the prosecution does not need a motive to get a conviction, but we're not talking about the courts right now. We're not talking about getting a conviction. What we're talking about is people spinning narratives with their very large platforms that point fingers at innocent people and their lives being disrupted, to say the least. So yes, if you're going to start pointing fingers at people, you better have some tangible evidence to do that. So that's all we're saying. That's all we're saying. We're talking about the court. We're talking about the court of public opinion.
Yeah, but they do have to have those. They have to have probable cause.
Agreed.
And
right. Yeah.
And which is the lowest, threshold there is. And there was nothing there. Listen, it was, there was one person in the car. It went, we knew where the cell phone ping was a week or more, before the car.
I remember. Yeah.
And it was right where it was. It just, they missed the vehicle. And then when the fire cam footage came out, it backed everything up. And I really thought that was going to put things to bed, but it didn't. And
not with a guy like Upchurch. I mean,
well, yeah,
but I mean, who would have known? You know what I mean? There was no way to who sees a guy like that coming?
I had never heard of him before that, and I'm very aware who he is now. But I've only done 2 or 3 of these ever, and I did. You might remember I did yours,
right?
And then as soon as I got done with yours, and I was not real familiar at all with the YouTube community. The Kylie Rodney case kind of sprung me into it, so I did your show, which was great, and then I started getting tons of DMs. People like, Zav's asking you to come up. I had no idea who Zav was. And Ryan Upster. So I went from yours, and I'm like, okay, that went fine. I'll go on. I jumped on that, and my brain was doing backflips trying to figure out what the hell they were talking about. I was like they're talking about, well, you just bring in a crane and then turn it around backwards, and you do that, and they're like, and then they'll be like, whoa, holy shit, I just figured it out, and I'm like, what is going on? Like,
you went from having a rational conversation with a YouTuber to jumping into a snake pit of irrationality.
I was like,
totally. I saw it. I was like, oh, this poor guy, dude.
Yeah, and
because he doesn't want to be rude, but if I was sitting there, I'd be like, are you a bunch of collective fucking idiots?
I mean, I think at one point I did tell Ryan, I'm like, right, I mean, it just, what you're saying does not make sense. I mean, it's, and again, this isn't a fucking video game. This is this is somebody's life. This is somebody's family member. So real investigation. And again, I'm not trying to clip anybody from they got things to investigate if they want to look into, as long as it doesn't invade the family's privacy, and you don't need people showing up at the lodge or calling.
As long as you're not, as long as it's not in any way going to victimize the loved ones of this person.
But I mean, the data's out there.
It's not that hard. We all do it, but there are those of us who actually have respect for the loved ones, and we don't start jumping to conclusions.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not that hard.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm very confident with what my conclusion is on it. I think it kind of lines up with law enforcement. Of course, I haven't seen the CHP report. I mean, I know what the conclusion is in that, but I don't know the details. But the family is owed. I don't know how you ever make it right with the family for the people that did what they did, and that still, I'll get people to DM me, they're like, hey, you should go check out this because they're starting a new rumor. I guess there's a new rumor out there that I have a son that was at the party or some shit, and then people were saying I'm Sammy's dad.
I remember that too. Yeah, I remember that. Like they put all this stuff together, and then like her mom's a lawyer and her dad, and then
her mom is a lawyer, but I was like,
no, I know that. What I'm saying is they tried to connect you to that somehow, like you're an investigator for their attorney firm and blah blah blah. And I'm just like,
right, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I mean she is she's my favorite daughter, but it was just ridiculous, and the thing is, these weren't jokes; they were like actually believing it, and I was like, holy mackerel! But you know, but at the same time, and then I'm also dealing with that nonsense, but then I'm also like, because I stay in touch with David and stuff and try and give him like some updates of like the process going on, and then understand, like hearing the real pain that in the aftermath, and which has just been compounded so greatly by this subset of people, and one thing I think is important to get out there is like this is not the whole true crime community, you know what I mean? This is a segment of it that's gone rogue. There's a lot of good that is done, like in these in missing person cases, like the outreach and the way people are willing to help in any way, and it's really amazing to see. It's a small subset of people, but they overshadow all the good that we do.
Right.
Because I guarantee you that you have to redo it again. The Kylie Rodney family would not ask for anybody's help.
Sure. I mean, you can't blame them for being totally jaded by this entire thing. And I mean, just imagine that on top of having to grieve their child or grandchild and still a year later not being able to do so in peace. Even though her mom was very public in making that statement, I thought it was a very eloquent statement. I thought it was very kind, and I thought it was very direct without being nasty. The opposite, as a matter of fact.
Regarding something you just said about her mom, one thing I want to bring up, when I was backstage waiting, I could see the chat, and I saw a comment that CNY family put out saying her mom should have been there when you were talking about her mom being notified.
Right. She's not allowed to go have lunch.
So yeah, I mean, this went on for weeks. This woman, had not slept. I think her friends were begging her to like get some air and stuff. They live in
you see that in bad movies where the police are like, "You're not doing anybody any good here. Go get something to eat. Trying to get some sleep."
Like you're supposed to sleep, but when she says that her mom should have been there, she's right. She should have been there, and because AWP should have notified law enforcement. Law enforcement would have notified the family and brought them to the site before it was a fucking spectacle, and they had to close it down. And then the mom, if she chose to, could have been there to see what had happened and where her daughter lied. But because
isn't it fair that she figured, well, her dad's there and her grandfather's
well, no, but what I'm saying is she didn't have that option because they announced it on Facebook first, and so all these all these
you're not saying it's her fault that she wasn't there.
It forced CHP to close off thing. What should have happened is they should have notified law enforcement, which was the agreement that they had with law enforcement. And then law enforcement would have notified the family and taken them out there privately before anybody knew anything was going on, and let them see the site and understand it, and then make a public announcement. But she couldn't be there because she tried to come there, and they were not allowed because CHP had closed it off because it was such a shit show because they announced on Facebook. So they had to go to the other side of the reservoir and watch and that's why after David said, "I'm not leaving until," he said, "I am not leaving until I see my granddaughter's car come out of the water." Right. And then as soon as that happened, he went over and joined Lindsay and them across the reservoir. But they weren't allowed. Her mom couldn't come there because AWP wanted clicks, you know. And so if CNY family is saying that she did something wrong because she had lunch and was being consoled by friends, that is that's horrible.
Right. So she was cheated out of the opportunity of even getting to be there.
Because, you know, once I got the call that it was announced on Facebook from Chloe, and I told them, we raced down, and then it was like ants. You could see people coming in the ridge line. There was drones all of a sudden. There was helicopters. And this is before many law enforcement even showed up. But they immediately shut down. You know, it's one dirt road that goes to there. And they shut that down. They're like, if you're not law enforcement, you're out, you know. And so yeah, she should have been there if she wanted to be there. She should have had that right. And that right was stripped away from her because AWP made it a social media event. And you know, it's not wrong for this woman who went through hell for weeks to go to lunch, and it's also not wrong of her to want to grieve in public or in private and not in public. Like everybody thinks that she's like, oh, she doesn't even care. Why? Because she's grieving privately and doesn't.
Because she doesn't appease your needs.
Yeah,
you know.
So I thought that comment was really shitty. But yeah, I'm glad we got to address that, because I think I don't know if she would have wanted to be there or not. If it was me, I wouldn't have wanted to be. I know that they tried to get David to leave. They said, you know, it might not be the best thing for your mental health to be here. But he said, it's my granddaughter and I'm not leaving her until I see her come out of the water, you know. And
okay, CNY family, if you had been listening, because this is what we like to do here on the Glare, we like to listen. You're saying, why didn't she go there before? She knew they were coming, not after they found her. Just my opinion. Well, your opinion is based on bullshit, first of all.
Yeah.
And the reason why it's based on bullshit is because if you had been listening, you would know that AWP didn't even tell anybody they were going in there. They just rolled up in there without checking in, like every other respectful person that was trying to contribute to the investigation.
They didn't. First of all, they had said online that they were coming like on Thursday or something, and all of a sudden they were in town like 4 days earlier, and they didn't. Yeah, you know, that would have been great if they called the family and said, we're in town, and I bet you the family would have been there with them, but they didn't. And that just like they didn't call them after they found her. You know, so again, that's, you know, it's just a tiny bit of respect that they should have, you know, been given. But, you know, but they have the New York Post embedded with them with AWP stuff on, so law enforcement won't kick them out. You know, they had New York Post photographers and stuff embedded, and
wow.
So they gave those, they made sure those people had access, but not the family. You know,
wow,
yeah.
That's just awful. Oh man. So and another thing about you that now, I mean, we're not done talking about this stuff, but I wanted to just real quick before I forget. I want to acknowledge the fact that you were one of the first people to straight up say that that Carly Russell's case was a fucking hoax, total fraud. And I mean, that took balls, because I wasn't ready to say that shit.
I'll tell you what, I put that out there and I was like, here we go again with the guy running. But you know what? Not a lot of people pushed back against it. A lot of people were like, yeah, I think you may be right. Where I was surprised, and when I knew it definitely was bullshit then. And I was listening to the scanner live when the call from about the Red Roof Inn came in. So I announced that literally in real time on Twitter, and that kind of went nuts on Twitter. But they immediately started getting the family replying saying this. You know, they were being really like aggressive, like, oh, this is a lie, it's bullshit. And I was like, oh, okay. You know, they were so worried about that. They weren't like, oh, well, I wonder who called it. If it wasn't us, so who called it in, and what's the circumstances? They were just like immediately jumping on me about that. So that kind of confirmed that. But you know, that it's, I don't know, what.
But you come to these conclusions because you're an investigator and you look at the facts. And I mean, I don't think that you would have been so bold and brazen to say something like that unless you were sure. It
Well,
seems like you were
listen,
pretty
I mean,
fucking
that
sure.
surveillance video was out, and here's I know there's, again, here we go, the grainy video and stuff, just kind of like the Kylie case, but, you can clearly see she gets out and goes to the passenger side. And, if a child's walking along the interstate, there was a lot of people on that road. People are going to notice, and also if there's an abduction, abductions are violent events. Somebody charges somebody, your reaction is of course going to be to fight back. There's cars going by, you're going to get somebody's attention,
right?
So now and she's 100 and between, they said 150 160 pounds, so you got to get her, subdue her, and then you've got to grab this 4-year-old, and then go off through the trees with nobody noticing when there was like tons of traffic.
You addressed this when we were speaking on Rabbit's panel with.
Oh, right. I forgot on that.
And that was before it was even announced that it was a hoax.
Yeah.
So because when you were saying that, I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense.
but it's like, oh man, if you're wrong, just cancel your Twitter.
Right. I mean, that's the thing is, I mean, my point of bringing that up mostly was, I mean, obviously, so the chat understands how credible you are. But also, I mean, it's an example of responsible speculation.
Yeah.
You're taking facts and you're taking your experience as an investigator and applying it to the facts that have been made available to you in this case.
Yeah.
And that's the conclusion you came to. And you were very confident in that conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, these, because I only work missing person stuff, and these events, they're like a lot of just repeating patterns. And, when you see these abductions, first of all, are very, very, very rare. And especially like that, but they're violent events. They don't go down.
Nobody just subdues themselves, especially not an adult. Nobody just goes, okay, kidnap me.
And somebody, there's too many people driving by. Somebody would have seen something. And also, I mean, the first big red flag was, the photo that they released of her that was taken just hours earlier. She's wearing her Apple Watch. And then they say her Apple Watch was found in her bag in her car. So why take your Apple Watch? Why all your trackable, in her AirPods? Everything trackable happened to be not like was in her bag, like it had been put away. Then the phone was like separate.
And not only no report of an abduction or some struggle on the side of the road, but also no report of a toddler running around, which somebody would have seen.
And the other thing was just the what they told us about the phone call with the sister-in-law, who they never disclosed who the sister-in-law was, but they said that the sister-in-law specifically told her, don't get out of the car because it might be a bait situation.
Right.
If you call your sister-in-law and say, holy shit, there's like a 3 or 4-year-old walking along the interstate, you don't say, don't get out of the car. It might be, you say, like, get that kid before it gets hit by a car. And just how they said, oh, we told her don't get out of the car because, and then all of a sudden that's what they say happened. It just none of it made sense,
Right. Yeah. Now, going back to the Ryan Upchurch stuff, I want to, without you obviously disclosing anything in regards to the lawsuit that would hinder it in any way. I was just hoping that you could give some insight because you are still pretty close with Mr. Robertson and Daniel, correct?
Well, Daniel, I don't talk to. I kept in touch with him after, and I haven't talked to him in a long time. David, I'm still in regular contact with. I spoke with him today. But Daniel, not as much. I think, he's had an incredibly hard time, and he was getting a lot of, different perspectives, and so I don't know. I hope he's, I hope he's finding some peace somewhere. Like I know it's
I mean, because this is going to be stressful, I can only imagine. I mean, I've had to deal with court battles, and they're never fun, and they're lengthy, and they're expensive, and so that stress on top of the stress of trying to peacefully grieve your daughter's loss, I can't imagine.
And you know, one thing I could say, like you said, they're very costly and stuff. You know, this is you know, they've already had their business trashed, but and this probably isn't money they want to spend, but this is not about it's not about getting rich. This I can promise you this is about principle. This is about saying you can't do this. You know, you can't, for the sake of a YouTube channel or your fans, or because you just feel like you came up with some batshit crazy facts. You present it as facts. You can't just trample over a family, and you can't tell your 3 million people, set them loose on them either, you know. And that's what happened. And so I think this is more about principle. I'll bet, and I have not had this conversation with David, so I'm not saying this case, but I'll bet you that had a sincere apology come in the months following, there probably may not have been a lawsuit. You know, like, I think they just want it'd be like, you know, like, this is just wrong, you know, and
I actually did my best to get him to apologize. I had him on here, and he just acted like a child. And I mean, and since then, this was almost a year ago. Since then, he's just doubled down even more. He put up a post saying that he doesn't regret anything he's ever done on the internet ever. He doesn't know anybody any explanations. You know, and there were so many that felt that way, because not just for Kylie's family's sake did I try to get him to apologize, but for his own. Because I actually, to a certain degree, I respect someone who is self-made the way that he is. So I respect him as an artist in that sense, even though I don't care for his music. I don't care anything about it. I don't listen to it. But the fact that he is self-made merits some level of respect, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree. What he's done is like something that maybe only a couple people have done in the industry, you know, like without a label.
Well, but you would think that in order to be able to pull that off, an element in that, a major element in that, would be a sense of accountability.
Yes.
And he doesn't seem to have any at all.
No, you know, like he definitely won't admit when you know, when he's wrong. And listen, he was wrong here, you know. And it's the doubling and tripling down. It's the I don't know. I don't understand it. I just don't think that way, so I can't get in that mindset.
Same here. I'm just like, I don't get it. Is it a pride thing? Or is it an ego thing that he just gets sued? Because this isn't the first time he's been sued. No. He's even publicly said that he almost enjoys being sued. So it's a big game to him. But the difference is what he ends up getting sued for normally is something that pertains to his music career. So as far as that goes, that's different. This is not, he's never been sued by a family who he has victimized. You know, and for him to not make that distinction speaks volumes of his character, in my opinion.
You know, listen, he could have just, nobody's going to be right 100% of the time in you know, whether you're a professional investigator or, you know, your online suits, whatever. Nobody's going to be right 100% of the time. I'm not right 100% of the time. Listen, the Harmony Montgomery case, I very much thought that her mother, Crystal, didn't have anything to do with it, but knew, like, had knowledge that something had happened. And, you know, in the last 6 months, I got enough evidence. I found out I was wrong. And I went online and with her
Yeah, but see, I always say this. I'd rather be wrong about someone's innocence than wrong about their guilt. So you still approach that in an ethical manner. You weren't ready to start throwing accusations at the mom until you knew better. That's a responsible way of...
I did put out there that I thought that she was, I thought that she knew. And when I found out I was wrong, she was on a, one of these panels, and I asked to come up, and I said, listen, I want to apologize. I put statements out there.
Oh, okay. So Harmony Montgomery, her mom did not have anything to do.
Well, no, I knew her mom didn't have anything to do with it. I thought her mom knew, like,
what happened.
I thought that Adam had, like, told her.
Oh, so you did fuck up. I mean, it happens.
I was listen. I was wrong on the case. I didn't call her a murderer. I didn't. It was right. I think that Crystal knows more than she's saying. And but when I found out I was wrong, I said to Crystal, I had a conversation with her online. I said, I was wrong, and took them 2 years to report her missing, and I thought that was a big red flag. And so I was I was wrong, and I'm not going to write 100% of the time, but I'm also not going to, just because I picked a direction, I'm not going to stick with it no matter what. I'm going to go where the evidence, leads. And that's, I don't think anybody at this point can say that it's foul play, in this case. There's just nothing that shows that.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's something that you always got to touch with kids' gloves, and the fact that you're up here saying that you were wrong, it does happen. I mean, Gray Hughes was in my chat just the other day saying even he thought that an ex-boyfriend in a case had something to do with something, and then later corrected himself and was like, I was wrong about it.
Yeah.
It's okay to have theories, but it's also, if you're going to do it, you do it responsibly and say, hey, I don't have evidence to this. This is just what I think.
Yeah.
So let's be careful, because that person could absolutely be innocent, and let's just be careful.
And also, it's not like I just came out of the blue. I had interviewed her 3 times. So there were inconsistencies, and there still is, but I think a lot of it has to do with the passing at the time. Listen, she said she was very open about having addiction issues. There's some memory, stuff. So some things didn't make sense, but now, it's a little different. But this is so much different. What I didn't do was go destroy her family. I didn't go
right.
Like, and that's what it doesn't make. If the people that thought or may think there's foul play, like what is so far out of bounds is think the family was involved. And there was stuff going around about, just like I'm sure would throw about these things, and just like that breed life, into them. And he was saying them as fact, he's like, she does not exist. Look at here. Like, let me show you. It's Kylie, and Grandpa Robertson is actually this person's dad, and then this and that. And the car is, it's just like, it was just, and the stuff about, and then they're just not real. You know what I mean? Then they're not real. This is a bullshit GoFundMe scam. Just so much stuff, and how do you, how do you grieve when, with all that going on,
Right. I mean, it's something that takes place in this community all too often. I mean, you have the Rucheks who lost their loved one Shanann and her 2 kids with the Chris Watts case.
Yep.
And it's been going on 5 years, and they have not had a chance to mourn in peace. 5 years. 5 years. People just won't leave them alone.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, the majority of us are truly here to help, but it's that the one subset that wants us to be entertainment, and it's not entertainment. It's newsworthy, and that's why these YouTube shows are important and stuff, because listen, they do when we work correctly, it can be
It's a good thing.
Can be tremendously helpful,
Sure.
and but when it doesn't, it's just like, geez, yeah, I don't know. And there's so, yeah, it's a shame, but I don't know. I hope the Rodneys and Robertsons, get through it and get somehow, get their life kind of piecing back together. I mean, imagine going from this, like, living in this mountain community, kind of off the grid, like family oriented, really.
Right. The whole
tight.
point is because they want to live peacefully.
Yeah.
Even prior to this tragedy, they wanted to find a peaceful way of living. And
yeah, they just want
to turned upside down.
They just want to mind their own business. Listen, one thing I'll tell you about David. David is like super. He's not a man of many words, he stops, but he's a listener. You can tell he, like, when we were in different situations, and then of course at the recovery site, like, you can tell he's retaining every word that everybody's saying. You know what I mean? He's taking it all in, but he's very quiet, and he's the guy, he wears a ball cap, and anytime somebody walks up, he takes his hat off to say hello, and
he's old school,
just great people. And her father, Daniel, is the same way. And to go from that and just living in this small community, just minding your own business, and to all of a sudden, having people sneaking to the lodge and, spying and calling the lodge at all hours, and him having to change his phone numbers and his email addresses, and getting threats from Creek Squad. And it's just a shame, I feel bad for him.
I agree. I just I wanted to talk a little bit about the lawsuit without getting to what's the mindset exactly of Mr. Robertson right now.
Well, I think,
how does he see it? Does he seem like he's holding up okay? Is he,
he's had a rough. No, I don't think he's holding up okay, to be honest. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that. No, he's not. He's not the person he was, and I think he's told me that, and I think that I kind of see the same thing with like my brother died 3 years ago, and I kind of see the same with my dad, where at the beginning they think they can like handle it, and I can handle it, and it's we can be there for the rest of the family, and then all of a sudden it just kind of like overwhelms them, and it's just more than you ever think it's going to be, I guess. And I think that if her death, but then having this pile-on effect, and the stress of all of a sudden the business is done, and watching his daughter be accused of all these things, and and then being told that they're not real people, and that they have something, or they did this for a GoFundMe scam. Just like a lot of it, just like, I think it breaks you. I think I think he probably hit a breaking point. You can't. I completely can see why. And that's why I hope that, like, I mean, a lawsuit is not going to all of a sudden make that better or anything, but I just hope that, like,
well, it's a fight when you just want peace, and it's a necessary fight for them.
He's a very quiet man, but he'll fight for principles.
Sure,
I'll tell you that. He's gonna be like, listen, I might just be this guy that lives up in the mountains and has a pretty simple life, but if you're gonna take on my family for a matter of principle, I'll fight. He'll fight back.
Now, a lot of people are are wondering why Kylie's mom is not named in the lawsuit and why she's not a plaintiff. Do you have any insight on that or any thoughts?
I don't have any insight. My thoughts would be twofold. One, I think that, and these are just thoughts.
Sure.
She's shown from the beginning that she wants to grieve in peace and not publicly. The whole family has, for that matter. They haven't done an interview or anything. I think she's a very private person. I'm sure she has a very close-knit group of friends, and she probably, and I don't know this directly from them, but I know she can't be over this, but she probably doesn't want to relive, you know, like going through this lawsuit and going through depositions and stuff like that is going to, you're reliving all the details of this. And she might just want to be like, I want to put this, she might not want to be a part of that. She might not want to know, you know, like have to hear it again. And so I don't know. I can't speak for her. And, you know, it's everybody's personal, you know, decision. And, you know, David and Daniel did what they, you know, they felt needed to be done for a matter of principle. And but I've never spoken to her about it. I only met her one time. So, and that was when I first, either first or second day I was there. So I think she's suffering, and maybe a lawsuit just isn't something that, you know, it would just overwhelm her.
Understood. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's kind of what those of us with some empathy and some common sense really would already assume. I was just hoping to get a little insight from you on that.
And that's just a gather. Like I said, I have not
right.
So, but that's just the kind of the read that I get on it, and you know, and
well, and the CNY person is still saying stupidity in my chat, and they're saying that Ryan just did a video saying that this is news to him and he hasn't received any papers or anything. I don't believe you, because I just looked and I didn't see any videos that pertain to that. Just him mocking the true crime community, which is fine.
Yeah. I did, you know, I don't know if I thought I saw that the summons was returned. You know, when you file a lawsuit, you don't have to you know, you have 30 days to serve it. And but I thought I saw a return. So listen, and I haven't talked to the family about this too, but it said in the lawsuit that there was a tolling agreement. So that means that they've been in communication, and they waived the statute of limitations. So obviously they've been in contact with his attorney about something, because that's what a tolling agreement is. So I think he's well aware of it, and it definitely was filed. It's on Pacer.
Okay. No, yeah, I mean, I saw it, and there was an attorney on Down the Rabbit Hole News today who handled the Critical K lawsuit. And he represented Ray Andriacchio, and they won by default. And he gave his insight on the lawsuit, and he's saying it's absolutely real. He has no reason to lie about that. Let's take a look at this video everybody's talking about real quick, because I haven't seen it yet either. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
How y'all doing today, baby? Probably not as good as me, because I'm the first best investigator ever. And man, y'all might need to brush up on, you know, y'all's investigating skills. I see y'all investigators being like, look, y'all, Ryan's being sued. I called my lawyer this morning, bro. I've been served with nothing. So I don't know, dude. I guess you got to go do some more investigating. It appears you got some clues wrong somewhere or something. And I mean,
yeah, it's just repeating itself now, because that's what shorts do.
I think that's the guy that has been served. That's what
that's what it looks like to me. I mean,
yeah, it looks like a guy that's pretty angry.
And I mean, how much of anything that he said has been true? So,
right.
I mean, I had a ball. I'm not gonna lie. Like, as much as I hate what we like to call tragedy pimps do to these families, I do enjoy dragging them. Don't get me wrong. I have a good old time. And I remember one particular video out of all of the ones. I mean, he, you know, but there was one in particular that I thought was hilarious, and he was going over Google Earth, and he was talking about how this one building was not a television station, and there was nothing to indicate that it was a television station. And I'm looking at it, I'm going over his video, and I'm like, what about all those satellite dishes and antennas all over the roof, dude? What are you talking about?
I remember. Yeah,
and that's just one little example. This guy is absolutely clueless.
Some of the stuff was almost scary. Like, what is like influencing those thoughts? Like, because some of it just was so absolutely just outrageous. But I'm looking at it on Pacer right now, and it's of course it just froze on me, but it's it's definitely filed. That's shit. With court, case number and the whole thing. So
I went over all the screenshots of that too. Okay. There's no doubt in my mind that it's real, and there's no doubt that the point is that people are saying that no, it's not, but he acts like those of us who actually look into these things don't know how to. And it's really funny because he's, and he likes to say, you're investigators. What's really interesting about him is the channels that he promoted are the ones who act like investigators. The ones that he criticized and makes fun of are the ones who say, we're not investigators. Yeah. Leave it to the professionals. Let this family get their closure the right way. Right. And yet he calls us wannabe investigators. I'm like,
then he was doing so I just pulled up the summons, and his lawyers, the address on the summons is 414 Union Street, the Bank of America Plaza. His lawyers were served, so he just calls lawyers if if they haven't informed him.
Okay, so his lawyers have been served according to what you're looking at.
Yeah, right, and that makes sense because there's a tolling agreement, so obviously there was communication going on with them. And so,
speaking of that, do you happen to know anything as far as, now, if you can't talk about it, I understand, but just say I can't talk about that. But what people are saying is that there was probably some negotiations that took place before the lawsuit was filed, and they could not reach an agreement.
Yeah, well,
are you aware of any of that?
That's what a tolling agreement would be. It'd be like, okay, we're in talks, but because the defamation, I'm pretty sure it's 1 year statute of limitations. So what they probably said was, okay, we're in talks, but in order to make sure the clock doesn't run out, we're going to stipulate, agree that the statute of limitations won't matter. Now, and I honestly have no idea what those talks were about. But like I said earlier, I bet, I could be wrong, but I bet that a sincere apology probably would have gone a long way. And I have a feeling this is going to be a very, very expensive apology. It could have been a pretty simple.
I mean, right. At this point, he's going to seem weak in his ego, is going to tell him that he's going to seem weak if he does the apology now.
Yeah.
So, it's just really funny to me that it's all he had to do in the first place.
The respect people would probably have for him if he came out and said, listen, I fucked up. I don't know what I was thinking, and I owe them an apology.
I'd support him if he did that.
That would build goodwill, and it would be the right thing to do.
Sure.
Because there's nothing he said is true, and not just that, but it's not just him. It's when he says it, all his followers take it as fact. You know what I mean? And he was saying it as fact. He wasn't saying, I think there's a possibility, or we should look at. He was saying, Creek Squad, this is fucking fake. This is that they're fake people. This is not the, let me show, that's different. That's not investigating. Right. That's his accusing,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just straight up lie. Now, I mean, I don't have it memorized, but there was, I mean, it seems like he has a chance of winning, but Daniel and David have a good chance of winning as well. So this could kind of go either way based on the Mr. Matt who joined Down the Rabbit Hole News today.
Oh, but yeah, I didn't see that. So okay, interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very, very interesting because he went over the whole lawsuit. So
yeah,
it was very interesting to watch because I was really concerned. Like, I mean, people are saying, well, it's a freedom of speech thing. It's a freedom of speech thing.
But listen,
But-
freedom of speech is not without limits. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, the people that think that are incorrect. And you're not allowed. One of the things, in fact, defamation per se, which is a defamation where you don't even need to prove that you were damaged, is there's like three elements of that, and one is if you're accused of if somebody accuses you of a sex-based crime. The other is somebody accuses you of a crime, and he did here, saying it was a GoFundMe scam, and freedom of speech doesn't give you the ability to say whatever you want. It gives you, you're not allowed, just like you're not allowed to go and yell fire. You're not allowed to slander people. So.
Agreed. And I'm a patriot. I'm a big fan of the First Amendment, but I'm also a big fan of the people's rights on the other end of that.
Right.
And we have to keep that in mind. If we're patriots, if we're Americans, then, we have to try to remember what these rights were based on, the ideas that these rights were based on. If you look back on our forefathers and their intentions, it was not just to give people free reign to abuse people.
Right.
It's kind of the opposite, actually.
Yeah. No,
but you should be allowed to your opinion. Absolutely.
You're to your opinion, but you can't state something as fact that is not fact. You can get something wrong, like how I got it wrong with Crystal. But what you can't do is know that it's wrong and say, and then make an accusation. You can't say they're not real people, it's a scam, when you know damn well that they're real people.
Right.
You can't, so that's
and I actually asked this person, I asked this attorney, I said, does it make a difference if he actually believed that Kylie wasn't real and whatever? And his answer was a very lawyer-like answer. And he was like, it depends on the state and what the laws are in that state. Right. So it's a federal case, but they're going to apply for some things Tennessee law and other things California law, and it's just, we'll just have to wait and see until this goes to court.
Yeah. So I don't know. I hope, I don't know. Most of all, I just hope that the family starts, or is, like starting to heal a little bit. I mean, it hasn't even been a year, but it seems like it's been, so it feels like it's been a lot longer than that.
It definitely feels longer than that, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I hope that maybe once the CHP report comes out, because then once that's done, is like, then nobody's gonna have anything to say, be able to say, oh, the case is still open, because it's not, it's not still open. It's done, the investigation's done, it's just in the report writing phase. And I hope that, like that kind of, well, I don't think the people that are still talking about it are getting any traction. I mean, I honestly, God, haven't watched in months, haven't even watched a video on it. But I get people occasionally that'll DM me, say, oh, they're saying this and that, but I don't care anymore. Like at the beginning, it got under my skin. I let it get under my skin because I was like, I trying to do the right thing and trying to help the family. And then I got people like filing reports against my PI license and shit like that. And then, you know, in like talking to those
all
PI,
because you were trying to help somebody. I
Yeah.
mean, that's insane.
and all that came out of that was they were like, why don't we just issue you a license? You know, because, you know, people can say, the thing is, I think you know, I try to prove through my actions, you know, that I'm here to help, and that, you know, I do have some abilities when it comes to this and this investigation and in search and rescue, and, you know, I'm truly there to help people, you know, and so they can say with the you know, I tried to stop letting those people get under my skin, and, you know, of course, it, you know, it got under my skin that they were accusing the families. So I'll always stand up for the families. You know, I'm always going to go, you know, to bat for them. But it's in the end, this community does do a lot of good, and it's a shame when, you know, like there's instances like this, or because it kind of throws the whole community into bad light. But, you know, a lot of good does come out. There's a lot of people that volunteer a lot of time and do a lot of good, you know.
Agreed. Yeah. And you know, and it's okay to do that as long as you stay in your lane, you know, just, you know, let the professionals do what they do.
Like people, I don't think a lot of people understand, like, just the people that just like retweet missing posters and stuff like that, like help the like how effective that is. I mean, the reach that helps generate, you know, and the awareness, and you never know who's going to see it. And
people underestimate that. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so important. I mean, and it truly does make you part of the community. I mean, people have helped just by doing that. I remember in the Kylie case, you know, I was shooting that drone footage, and I didn't have time to go through it and stuff. So I just said, here, I'm putting it on a YouTube link that's private. Here's the link. If you guys, and people spent hours and hours and hours scrubbing every second of that footage, you know, just seeing if they could find anything to try and help Kylie, you know. And that's, I mean, that's huge. That's, I mean, I think that's pretty amazing. You know, it's a bunch of strangers that never met Kylie or her family that are, you know, willing to help. But unfortunately, it's overshadowed by, you know, some of the nonsense. But there is a lot of good out there, you know.
Agreed. I figure we could spend a little bit of time, if you're cool with it, taking some questions from chat.
Yeah, sure.
You can choose which ones you want to.
No, just throw them out. I don't want to.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So if anybody has questions, throw them in chat, and I'm gonna randomly pick them. So,
yeah, that's true.
Right. Yeah. Let's see. The Glare, does SF know how the family feels about the case being live streamed? Possibly. I don't think they've thought about it. I doubt that they've thought about it.
That's a good question. That isn't even crossed my mind. You know, in the courts, you know, courts are open, you know, except for juvenile and mental health courts. They're supposed to be open to, you know, the public. So if there was public demand for that, I imagine that the court would allow it. It wouldn't be up to the family, but it's good. I haven't even thought about that. I can tell you, you know, just because I'm in, you know, a defamation case myself, that I had to file, you know, this will take if it goes to trial, it'd be 2 or 3 years from now. It'll take
right.
It's not like a criminal case where you have a right to a speedy trial. Civil is different. It's a slow process.
And that's the thing, is a lot of these people don't understand the true crime community because they're Brian Upchurch supporters, and I understand that. That's fine. But these questions, like why did it take so long for the CHP report to be released? And before you answer that, I'll go ahead and say that I think it's just because it's fucking California Highway Patrol. Kylie's not the only case that they had to deal with. They've got a case, they've got a bunch of stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
So these things don't happen overnight. They don't happen in a second like that, just because you have a demand for it.
Yeah, these are actually like they have like scientists and everything. You know, there's a lot of science that goes into the CHP, and they have to, for every fatality, they have to generate a crash report. And when I talked to them, they said that they were running at about 14 months was their average right now. And then when I talked to them last time, the guy said he thought there was one more ahead of Kylie. When I talked to them like 3 months ago, she was fourth. There was still 3 ahead of her, even though it was close. So it's just a matter of how many fatalities they have, going on at a time, because they got to generate a really thorough report. Because most of those fatality reports are not single car incidents, so they're involving big insurance cases and stuff like that. So they got to be really thorough, and so they're not going to put her in front. They do it in sequence, even though the investigations. So they have the investigators, but then it goes to the people who write the reports and some of the reports, and then it's got to go through all types of checks and be signed off by all type of people. So I talked to them Thursday, and I think it's, from what I sensed, I've been in pretty constant contact with them, and not just at the trucking office. I'm talking to the actual investigation people. I'm thinking it sounds like 60 to 90 days we'll have the report.
Okay. Terry asks, do you think the article will help or hurt the public opinion of the case?
I thought it was a very neutral type of article. I didn't think it really
I thought it was a fluff job on AWP, honestly.
Yeah. If you don't know the charges against Jared, then it probably won't register. It didn't. I don't know how many.
That bothered me.
People read it,
that bothered me. The way that they painted the victim out to be like she was just, throwing accusations out there, and kind of minimized her. Because they just kind of cherry picked out of the email, exchange between Jared and her, and didn't even point out the fact that at no point did Jared deny what she was accusing him of, blatantly accusing him of in those emails. And the whole purpose was to get it in writing. It's kind
of surprised Jared talked with her. Did the interview. I know that
I have my theories on that.
Well, I know that the reporter really wanted to talk to the victim, but I myself and Chloe, who we know who the victim is, and so we weren't going to give her information. And although it was passed along that if she wanted to, but she's not in this for press or attention or money or anything.
Obviously not. Yeah.
Because
it's been almost a year since she came forward, and haven't heard a peep out of her. So this is the first time. She was quoted a couple of times in the article, but there was no focus on her. It was just how AWP. It was just Jared playing it down and saying, "Oh, it was just kissing cousin stuff, whatever."
Yeah,
and it kind of made me sick, if I'm being honest.
Kissing cousins thing, and if you read the probable cause statement, it's very graphic, and it's not kissing cousins stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any. Let me see. This is Smoky Blue Days. The article that I'm referring to is a New Yorker article that came out today. It was, in my opinion, just a fluff job on AWP and Jared Lysick specifically. I know. I don't know how comfortable you are talking about that, but that's my opinion. I don't. If you familiar
You know what?
with this
It's
channel,
the
I don't have problems
article
doing
that
that.
one thing they said in the article that I was really shocked if it's true is their subscriber numbers are all time high. They're higher than they were before Kylie. It's a shame if that's true.
Yeah, it's just yeah, the whole thing was just gross to me, man, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, nobody's denying that AWP has done good things. What I
Yeah.
question is their motives behind doing those good things.
Yeah.
I think that Jared was fishing for a, no pun intended, fishing for a reality show. He was trying to get all kinds of
100%.
content, and yeah, that's he wanted clout. He wanted, he wanted the hero look, and
Yeah.
and he showed up on every, and it was just funny because they played that down. Like in the article, they're kind of talking about how, he agreed to go on this panel or whatever, but no, this guy jumped on every possible panel that he could
And
catch
he wasn't even
to promote his video.
He wasn't even in Truckee. And then once it became this huge story, then he was like, oh, if I could tell you, just wait till you hear what's coming. It was always like, and then, the AAA guy's going to finally speak and he's going to show, and there was just never anything, there. And
right.
And he ramped it up and in which, ramped up church up and, the whole thing, it was all for clicks. And that's what's so frustrating is because
that's all I think the New Yorker article was. I think that he agreed to do the interview as long as they don't tear him apart. I don't know how that works. I don't know if you have any say over that. I don't know if, I'm not going to imply that he paid her or anything like that because I have no evidence of that.
No, I mean, like I said, I was interviewed for it, and I know that, like, I wasn't given any direction on if it was what type of article it was going to be. She just had specific questions, and I can tell you the fact checkers were unbelievably thorough. I probably spent 8 hours on the phone with them, but one thing is I saw go by in the chat. Brian Vlad Castle's sister said, we mentioned Vlad. Vlad is a case that.
Yeah, Lana Westbrook is asking about it, but I'm about to tell Lana Westbrook, just ask the question. Don't say that you have a question. Just ask the question.
Oh, well, Joe was.
What is your question?
Joe, I saw Joe's go by. She said, could you just talk about Vlad for a minute? Vlad is a case. Vlad was a Marine that I think I just got back from Orlando. He went missing in Orlando. I just got back the day before yesterday. I think it was my 5th or 6th trip there now looking for him. He was a Marine that went missing almost 2 years ago. He would hang out at this, he lived on the UCF campus. He would hang out at this place called Foxtail Coffee. He lived with his dad in an apartment. His dad went out of town with the other family members for a birthday. Vlad got trespassed from Foxtail Coffee. Vlad had a tendency to like pace, and he would have headphones on, sometimes sing. He had some quirky tendencies. Gentle giant guy, and made some people nervous though when he got trespassed. And he would go into the homeless communities and help people, and he would actually borrow money from his dad to give to homeless people. And what happened was, we know at least 2 people that he attracted the attention of because he was giving them money. He actually gave him his dad's credit card at one point, and his dad had to shut the card off because these 2 people went in and bought a bunch of shit. And then he got trespassed from Foxtail Coffee, and we have the body cam of that. And then that's the last time he's ever seen on video. But 2 nights later, in the apartment complex that he lived in, there's a guy that he used to play basketball with, and he went and knocked on that guy's door at 3 a.m. and asked if he could stay at his place. And even though Vlad had the apartment to himself because his dad was out of town, and the guy had his girlfriend and his girlfriend's kids there, and he's like, Vlad, it's like the kids got to get up for school like in like 2 hours, and so it's not a good time. And then Vlad asked if he had a gun, and which he didn't, and that's the last anybody's ever seen of Vlad. And he was out of breath when he was talking to the guy, and so there's a chance that somebody was following him or being chased. And then one of his shoes, he was wearing these red slides. One of the slides was found off the side of the property by the woods. So he's somebody that I met with the detectives, the lead detective again last week, and there's just no digital sign of him anywhere. But if we could just get people to keep, his missing posts are out there. If we could get people just to keep their eyes open, he did talk about going off the grid and living off the grid. Except he said he would wait until his dad passed away to do that.
So there's a possibility that he's just hiding out, that he just
we just don't either. Yes, there absolutely is, and but then you just think that somebody like that's going to have leave some trace somewhere. But we're just asking, he could be anywhere at this point, but especially Orlando area. His name's Brian, Bryan Hassel, Hasel, but his middle name is Vladic, and he goes by Vlad, so VLAD. So if you just look on Twitter or Google and you put in Brian Vladic Hassel, his missing poster will come up. Anybody, if you guys could just help retweet that.
Send me through DM on Twitter. Send me a missing persons flyer that you have there, and I'll tweet it.
Yeah, I see his sister saying there that hashtag find Vladic is his official hashtag.
His sister's in here.
Yeah, the one Joe J-O.
Oh, okay.
That's his sister. And Dory is somebody that works on my team, and she is she's a certified advocate, actually certified, and she is working on this case. I'm sorry, my power is gonna shut off. She's working on that case too, so they have it. But if the Find Vladic hashtag is his official one, the guy's he's a Marine vet, and we just would really like to figure out what happened. So
yeah, Joe, if you can, if you want to get in touch with me through Steve here, we could set something up, and I'll have you up here and help you spread the word. I'm happy to use my platform to do that for you if you'd like. So if you can, just like I said, if you want to, you definitely have a place here to be able to tell your story and spread the word on any hopes to find your brother. So
yeah, thank you. We appreciate that.
Be happy to do that.
It's a family that is not going to give up, and and I'm not going to give up either, because they're really dedicated to it. But it's like with the Rodney family you're going through. It's just so this unknowing, and so yeah, I appreciate you let me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you joining me today. This was very, very eye-opening. A lot of good insight, and
yeah,
I know it's not going to make a difference to those who just just blindly follow Upchurch and what he's done, but hopefully those of us with some comprehension skills, and not just reading, just basic comprehension skills can take something from this. Table for One says Doug and some of the AWP team who left after the SA charges have just started a new team. I asked if Doug would formally apologize to the Rodney family and how he will ensure it'll not happen again. I got zero response. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Thank you, Table for One. I appreciate that.
Yeah. One thing I think just to leave it on is that, as tragic as the whole, it is that they have to go to this extent to file a lawsuit because of Upchurch, and Upchurch feels that it's okay to make these allegations. I think it's also really important to point out that literally thousands of people showed up to search for Kylie, and online, tens of thousands of people with all the right intentions were willing to do everything they could. It was a small percentage of people that didn't, but for everybody, genuine thank you to everybody that helped in every way, whether it's just retweeting her poster or people went and searched or people, however, those people, we can't let Upchurch overshadow all the
Agreed.
good done, and people are out there that care.
Yeah, agreed. And thank you for making that point to close with, because I can't think of a better point to close with. I agree with you 100%. Upchurch is not the he's not the victim here. He's not the victim here, and I'm not going to treat him like one, because Kylie's family are the victims, and to slander them and say that they're just doing this for money after everything that they've endured is kind of disgusting, to say the least. And I'm being nice. So, anyways, Steve, thank you again for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Everybody take care.
All right. Take care, Steve. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I know Upchurch said he hasn't been served. I mean, he may not have, but his lawyer has. So, yeah, Upchurch is going to court. And so, guys, we just simply got to do better, when it comes to stuff like this. There's nothing wrong with following these cases. There's absolutely nothing wrong with following these cases. There's nothing wrong with expressing. And there's Grandpa Robertson. You're welcome, and thank you, Mr. Robertson. Everybody here in my community, anyway, you have our full support. We can absolutely follow these cases. We can be fascinated by these cases. We can think about these cases, but we have to keep in mind that the people involved in these cases are real people going through a hard time. Like, let me give you an example of what I do to practice empathy to some degree. When I think of someone like Mr. Robertson, I think about how his day starts. I think about whether or not he has cream in his coffee. I think about how long it took him and his significant other to decorate their home. I think about what their feelings are like when they're planning a family get together, just to get together and sit down and have a meal. I think about the love that they put into the meals that they cook when they know that they're going to feed other members of their family that they love. I think about all of these little things. And when you think about these things and then think about the kind of things that they're going through, that is completely unnecessary. To have people drag their name, to have people act like and flat out say that they're not real people. Imagine somebody saying that about someone you love. Imagine somebody saying that about your mom, your dad, your grandpa, how much love they put into their home, in decorating it, in the meals that they cook, even just for themselves, and how much they're going to sit down and enjoy a meal that they just put a bunch of love into. I mean, it's not that difficult. It's really not that difficult. And if you and to go the extra mile to think of those things, I understand most people don't do that. We're all just involved in our own lives, and I get that. But when you start to when you forget that these people are real people and you start thinking of them like they're just characters in a movie or a book or some Lifetime TV show, when you start thinking of them like that, take a second. It's a good exercise to imagine them as somebody that you know and care about. Imagine what their family is going through. Imagine the things about the person that they lost that they're going to miss. Even if you don't know what those things are, just imagine what they might be. I think it helps me. So just a suggestion, guys. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, guys. I really appreciate you guys joining me. And a big special thanks again to Steve Fisher, SF Investigates, and all of his insight that he shared with us. I thought it was great. And I hope to have him again another time. And as far as this Find Vlad hashtag, please share that. And Joe, like as I said, if you could get in touch with me, if you don't know how to directly get in touch with me, you could do so through Steve, and I'm happy to set something up to where you can share your story and help spread awareness on your brother's case. So I am more than happy to do that. We will set something up as long as you would like to do that. Anyways, guys, you guys are fantastic. I really love you guys, and I really appreciate you guys. And we will do this again very soon, my friends.